Hey Dragon Folk, how are y'all doing? Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. We're going to skip through the little intro part that I normally do on every video because today we have a bit of a long one for you. I'm going to be talking about my own review for the more budget cards that exist in Heavy Hitters. The entire set of Heavy Hitters is officially spoiled. As far as collection videos will go for this, we'll talk about that a little bit later once we know once the Collector's Center page comes up for Flesh and Blood. That's when we'll probably talk about that. But for right now, I wanted to jump in to the, more bulk side of Flesh and Blood because, as we all know, I do like to cover any Clash formats and Commoner and so on and so forth. So I wanted to do a video talking about everything, kind of going over all of that, and then doing specific videos for the heroes that I see come out. We'll do like a Commoner video and a Clash video for each one. We'll do one for Kasai. I know I have a Clash video for Kasai that just recently came out. And then I know I'm going to make one for the other 5 heroes as well, because they did get a whole bunch of cool stuff. And I'm going to do that for Commoner and Clash, hopefully, if I have the free time. But right now, I just wanted to go over the cards, kind of show off what it is. So here we are on February. We're going to go over the rares, the specializations, and then the commons. So rares and specializations are mostly for the Clash format, outside of the weapons and equipment that come in rare. But the specializations are all going to be for Clash specifically. And then we're going to move into the commons where you guys can check out that. So this is our little overview of Heavy Hitters and how I kind of feel about the cards. So let's go over the rares. Let's talk about the weapons, right? The new weapons we've got for Commoner and Clash. Ball Breaker and Mini Meat Axe. Mandible Claw did get a reprint in here, which is pretty cool. It actually got brought down to token level. It was originally a rare, if I recall correctly. But that is nice to see. So this is going to be your token weapon for limited. Ball Breaker is a new brute weapon. Going to get you pay 2 to attack. And if you discarded a card with 6 or more this turn, it gets +1. And then you also have Mini Meat Axe. Pay 2 to attack. When it attacks, draw a card and then discard a random card. Both theoretically good with agility tokens, which we'll talk about later, but I believe that if you're going to play, you can probably play both of these unless you're playing KO, and if I were to choose either of these when playing KO, it'd probably be Ball Breaker, if not Mandible Claw. Mandible Claw is still very good. If you discarded a card with 6 or more, it gets go again. You can pump it with a Beat Chest card, which we'll check out later. Pump it. It'll get go again, and then you can attack with another attack. So very cool. We'll go over the specializations after. There are 2 rare specializations for Brute that came out, one for KO, one for Rhinar. We'll talk about those in the next section there. Or you can skip ahead to that section. I'll see about making some chapters for this too. Beast Mode has a rainbow version of itself now. This was originally in the Dorinthia vs. Rhinar Classic Battles. And so pretty basic as far as it's concerned. 3 for 6. If you intimidate it, you get +2. Really more for Rhinar, or really more of like a limited card. I don't think it's going to see much play in Clash or Commoner. It's not going to see play in Commoner. These are all kind of for Clash in general. I don't think it's going to see play in Clash, but if you're trying to really pump up the damage, I guess it couldn't be terrible. You could always play a card that pumps with Beat Chest as Rhinar and then come in with Beast Mode for, that could be possibly, I don't know, what is that? 11 plus Intimidate. So could be enough. Pat Call is another reprint. When it defends, reveal the top card of your deck. If it has 6 or more power, put it on the top. Otherwise, put it on the bottom. This helps, again, more so for limited with Clash. But if you're trying to build like a Clash Brute deck, a card like Pat Call could work. I don't see it being the case. I think the multiple Intimidate way of playing Brute is usually better, but I guess new KO also cares about this being even a higher power. So you can play all 3 of these in your deck and still have more than a 6, on top of the fact that you can essentially stack your deck to always win your clashes, which is pretty cool. Rawhide Rumble, new card in the set. We've seen it a little earlier before, but it is essentially a Beat Chest mechanic, so you can discard a 6 from your hand to give this an additional effect of Intimidate when you attack with it. So that's pretty good. A 2 for 6 with Intimidate, not bad. Again, probably more so for limited because it does require you to, outside of the fact that you're you're attacking with it for 6. If you wanted to gain Intimidate, you have to discard a 6. In some cases, that's really good. In other cases, it just might seem like an extra resource that you might not have. So it might be 2 hand, generative source kind of deal, but I digress. Miller's Grindstone, this is one of the new weapons that came out for Guardian. It's a rare. I think we talked about this in our previous commoner video, but Miller's Grindstone is essentially a way for you to mill cards from your opponent. You attack with it for 3, comes in for the breakpoint of 4, and then if it hits, you clash. And then the winner, if you win this, you destroy the top card of your opponent's deck. And if they win, you put a -1 counter on Miller's Grindstone. It's probably going to see a lot more play in Limited than maybe in Classic Constructed, or not Classic Constructed, in Clash or Commoner. But who knows? I mean, if your whole game is just stack your deck with a bunch of high attack cards and then attack with Hammer, I think your odds are pretty good of always winning the Clash. Moving on, we've got Stonewall Impasse. This is the Clash shield for Guardian. Same deal, essentially. It's got Temper 1. But if you win a Clash, you get an additional +1 onto it. So technically is a Temper 2 if you win the Clash, and then can be a Temper 1 if you win another Clash. But it is very Clash specific. If you block with this and you lose your Clash, you'll lose your shield, which kind of feels bad. But I mean, even blocking 1 is still pretty good. Golden Glare, this is the Victor specialization, and Good Time Chapeau is the Betsy specialization. We'll talk about those in a sec. We see some reprints from Tolarian Community College's Round the Table with Colossal Bearing, Lay Down the Law, and Smack of Reality being reprinted in here. These are tower effects. They pretty much care about your cards pumping up your next attack, and then you're going to come in with this for near 13. They all care whether or not their attack is 13 or more, and if it is, they get some very specific on-hits, such as this will have you destroy an equipment when they control with 1 or less. This one has all non-equipment cards defending it, get -1. And this one will allow you to destroy all aura tokens they control. So, again, very much so like a limited thing, unless you're trying to do like a Pump and Thump Bravo or a Pump and Thump Betsy even at this moment. Not a terrible idea for any of those. So if you're looking for more of the thump strategy, that is certainly the way to go, is to get some tower cards in there to really threaten it. Because 13 by itself, even if it's at base 13, it's a lot of damage. It's a lot of damage to threaten, especially in a young format like Clash and Commoner. So I do suggest, I might do some testing to look into that, but we'll see. Next up is Over the Top. This is, again, kind of like Thump. If its power is greater than its base, it gains overpower. So you don't need to worry about Betsy's ability to give it overpower. But if you want to get an extra damage on top of it, you could do that if you have a wager mechanic added onto Over the Top. 3 for 6 block 3 is pretty okay. I think I'd play the blue, maybe. I don't know. 4 is a little not feels good. The red certainly seems to grab me there. Stacked in your favor. This is more for fatigue. It comes in rainbow. The whole point is that you get +3, +2, or +1 defense, respectively, on your attack actions while defending. And then at the start of your turn, you'll destroy it, draw a card, and then put a card from your hand on the top of your deck. This triggers any kind of draw mechanic if you're looking for draw mechanics to play with things in Limited. But on top of it, it also lets you stack your deck again to win clashes, which is kind of Guardian's big thing in Limited, but also big in the other realms too. Hot Streak is one of the new swords. We talked about this in the Kasai video that I just made, but it's pretty cool. You pay 1 to attack, and then if it's defended by 1 or more attack action cards, it gets go again. It's very cool because, two-handed warriors are always looking for a way to attack with their weapon, get go again, and then do something else, usually attacking with their other weapon or attacking with some other attack. And Hot Streak pretty much forces your opponent to choose that route. You go and you attack with Hot Streak, and they go, well, if I block with an attack action, you get to do more things. But if I block with something that I was going to use to like pump my attack next turn, then there's a problem, and I might end up losing. So it really makes the opponent think with Hot Streak, but regardless, you're going to want to play cards in your deck that give your weapons go again anyway, because in most cases, things like Blade Runner, as well as some other stuff, they allow you to pump your next sword attack. And so you're able to get that going. You'll pump the next sword attack, give this one go again, so on and so forth. Parry Blade, very interesting. I'm curious to see whether or not there's like a fatigue strategy for Warrior at all, but Parry Blade is the first time we're seeing a weapon that blocks, which is pretty cool. If it attacks a defending weapon, or if it defends an attacking weapon attack, then it gets +2. So it's got Blade Break 2. You can run 2 of them. So theoretically, you could run both of these, be able to block 4, but you'll lose your weapon, obviously. We got 2 more specializations here. We'll talk about those in a bit. Cut the Deck, probably one of my new favorite warrior attack reactions. It's so incredibly nice because it's almost like Crown of Seeds without the defensive mechanism, but it still pumps your stuff, right? +3, and if it's defended by an attack action card, draw a card, then put a card from your hand or arsenal on the bottom of your deck. So it gets you a draw trigger, it lets you filter your arsenal, and more importantly, it gives you the buff to your attack. Again, it has to be an attack action. So when you are playing this during the reaction step, you do want to make sure that it is an attack action that they are playing to defend your attack. Because if it isn't, then you're just going to get the +3 here, which could still be enough to close games. But if you're looking to get that additional ability, make sure it's an attack action because it doesn't work for just anything. It's not like Reprise. Fatal Engagement's the same thing. Play this only if an attack action card is defending this chain link. It'll get +5. Very situational, but for a very large buff in damage. +5 to your attack is super huge. Most of the time for warriors, it's just like +3 is the highest. And then if you move further into like CC and Blitz, you might be looking at things like +4 or something of the sort, but you almost never see +5. And here they're just handing it to you, but it needs to be an attack action card that's defending. So very important. Take the Upper Hand is another card that I think is personally for Olympia, but I'm sure other warriors are going to start doing wagering and stuff like that too, because agility tokens are really nice. And so playing something like this is also cool because it costs 0, it's +3 to your attack, and you can only play it if you wagered this chain link. So you have to make sure that you are wagering, so it's very situational, and it's pretty much dead otherwise in your hand, but it does block for 3, so it's got its uses there. The Clash cards, the Clash of Might and Agility and Vigor, we'll see later. Very, very interesting. These are all coming into the dual class cards as we move down the list. Clash of Might comes in rainbow here. When it defends, you clash with the attacking hero, and the winner creates a Might token. Again, very good into Brutes and Guardians. These Clash cards are not super great into lower power level decks. So you're going to see ones for like Warrior, and then I think there's even one that does clashing for gold. And even still, like using that as a generic level of things, I'm not too sure whether or not that's the move. We'll have to see what happens in the meta for Clash and Commoner. Battered Not Broken is a good card for Clash. Or it's good really for Limited most specifically, but this really helps kind of balance that overpower keyword, allowing you to prevent 2 damage with this card for 0. And then if you do create a Might token. There's a cycle of these as well, which we can go over. Test of Might, these are block cards. You'll see these here. I mean, they're all kind of... Block is a new thing that was introduced in the last set, Bright Lights. And essentially, it's just a card that can't do anything but block, or you can pitch with it. That's it. You don't put in an arsenal. You can't play it. You can't do anything with it. It doesn't have an attack value. It doesn't have a cost. Its whole purpose is just to block. And so in this case, again, it's bigger on Clash. So you're going to want a deck that has a lot of high attack power cards in it. And that's how you're going to want to play cards like this. Very good fatigue strategy, but I don't see many other people playing it. Wall of Meat and Muscle, kind of the same concept. It's nice, though, because if you control a Might token with this one, you can put an attack action card from your graveyard to the top of your deck. I actually think it's very valuable, especially in fatigue strategies. Which, if you're a Guardian, you're already trying to fatigue. So now you can just block out with everything, wait till you have a Might token, block out with this, and then get something back. And that could be like a Macho Grande or Some other, like a choke slam, if you're trying to like close out games with dominate or overpower, very well could be the case. Clash of Agility, this is exactly like Clash of Might, same stats and everything, all rainbow. The only difference is it gets you an agility token. I believe if there is one that is super worth it, this is not bad to play, even though it only comes in for, 6 and blocks for 3 and it costs 2 to play it. The point is to defend with this card. It's definitely more so for limited, but agility, I think out of like the tier level of tokens you want to get out of these cards, it's agility, unless you're playing ninja. It's agility, vigor, might, gold. And then it's obviously it differs depending on the hero that's playing, but agility is super good for warrior specifically, which is why this is part warrior. Brutes also care a lot about agility too, so this could be a card that works out in their favor. Take it out of the chin is exactly like Battered Not Broken, and it just creates an agility token instead of a might token. So again, agility, pretty cool. It still prevents damage. Run Into Trouble is kind of like Steelblade Shunt, but for Brute also. It's like a mix between Reckless Swing and Steelblade Shunt. You have to control an agility token in order for its effect to happen, but you can deal 1 damage to the attacking hero if you do block with this. Great for limited. Probably not going to see much play in Clash or Commoner, unless, of course, that like becomes the strategy as somebody sees it going, and they've always gotten their opponent down to 1, can never seem to win the game. That might be something for them. Test of Agility. This is another 4 block that clashes, and then you can create an agility token. Again, very good for brutes and warriors because it's a block 4 in warrior, which is not bad, especially if you're dealing with things like overpower or anything of the sort, and it'll get you an agility token if you win the clash. The same goes for Brute. Brute's definitely going to want to play this. Out of both of these heroes to play this, Brute's going to benefit better for it because Clash cares about the highest attack value, and warriors don't normally carry a lot of attacks in their deck. So Clash of Vigor, again, I don't have to really explain that. It's pretty much the exact same thing as Clash of Might and Agility. Again, Vigor is more the Guardian Warrior stuff. I think it's good if you're playing Guardian. I don't think it's good if you're playing Warrior. So that's my whole stance on that. Slap Happy is just like taking on the chin and Battered Not Broken, except you make a Vigor token. Hardy Block. When this defends, if you control a Vigor token, gain +1 life. That's not terrible. Again, into the fatigue strategy. So you're trying to do Vigor and Might as into like Guardian, like a Vigor Might Guardian build for Clash or Commoner. You're not going to be able to play this in Commoner, but in Clash, it's actually very good because this is going to get you extra life. So if you're trying to do fatigue builds already, definitely the way to go. Moving to Test of Vigor, same deal as the other one. You block for 4. Clash, again, it's better in Guardian than it is in Warrior because Warriors normally don't have large attack value cards, but that doesn't mean that, the meta can't change. It's not like Warriors are stuck without those. They obviously exist. You just don't normally see them. Down but Not Out. This is a new card that I think the people of Clash are going to really enjoy. Although it did just get a new, very serious ruling, I guess, on itself, where originally people thought that this was just less life and then fewer equipment and tokens. But the problem here is that you need to have all 3 of these conditions met in order for you to get the buff at the bottom here. So when it attacks a hero, if you have less life, you have to have less life, you have to have fewer equipment, and you have to have fewer tokens than them. Which means that if both of you have no tokens, that's not you having fewer tokens, which means that you now don't get the effect of Down but Not Out. And I feel like that's very important when you look at something like that, because you really do want to make sure that you are getting the most value out of something like this. Limited, it's probably huge. Super great card to play. Constructed for Clash, I don't think so. Then we move into Wage Gold. Wage Gold is a rare, so it can't just be played in anything willy-nilly for Commoner, but for Clash, it's not too bad. You're going to want to play this in maybe Victor. If you're even really trying to get greedy about it, you could very well do this in Kasai. Have Clash targets for stuff like that. Olympia, if you really wanted to do that too. The cards Very, very nice. And this universal keyword, I'm really curious how often we're going to see this. It essentially just says that it counts for the same class as your hero. So when a card says your next warrior attack gets +3, this will count as a warrior card, but it will work the same way in Guardian, where it's if your next Guardian attack gets +3, this is also Guardian if your hero is a Guardian. You know what I mean? So not bad. It's going to work well in Brute because, you know, it's a 6 technically in KO. But I don't think it is I don't think it's the spice. Again, wagering is very risky because with wager, you do have to think that, you know, your opponent very well could just block everything and get the token for themselves. But the good news is that if you pump something with wager and attack with it, if your opponent wants the token so bad, they're going to have to block out with nearly everything. And if they block out with nearly everything, that means they don't really have a turn their next turn. And if they don't have a turn, unless it's the gold, really, the tokens disappear at the start of the player's turn. So if you give them a might token or an agility token or something and they don't have the ability to use it, I say that's a win. Reinforce the Line is also, it's a card you can mainly use for defensive strategies, fatigue decks, Guardians being able to pump up their own defense, their own attack actions with, additional defense. Really powerful. It essentially makes, your 3 blocks block for 7. Very huge, and it costs nothing to play. On top of that, we also had a Lunging Press reprint in here. So target attack gets +1. That's just enough to squeeze some damage over for wager abilities. So if Lunging Press has already seen use and play in Clash, then it's probably going to just continue to see that. But some people don't know what Lunging Press is, and so it's very, very nice. We're going to move on to the specializations now. Specializations are specifically here for Clash, but they can be used if it's rare equipment. Very much so, even though it's a specialization, it can still be used in Commoner if it's a rare equipment. First, let's take a look at the Legendary specialization, which I'm not sure how many Clash fans are actually a fan of this. Let me know in the comments if you are. It is a legendary card, so it is going to be significantly harder for you to pull out of like a box, or it's probably going to retain some kind of value, unless of course Victor ends up being a bad hero and nobody wants to play them. It could go down to like $20. This counts as a gold. It's got temper 2, it counts as a gold, and you can run this in Clash decks as Victor. Super cool for such a low level format because temper is really, really important. It blocks out a lot. You already have like nearly an entire super fridge in Clash. Now you have this on top of it. So very much so. I'm not sure how people feel about legendaries in Clash, but we'll see as time goes on what the actual price point for that is. Monstrous Veil is a Rhinar specialization, and definitely the helmet you should be running for Rhinar regardless of Commoner or Clash, because not only does it have Battle Worn 1, it also has the ability to destroy itself and then draw a card and discard a random card. That in and of itself will give Rhinar an Intimidate trigger, and then you can play in Clash, you can play things like Alpha Rampage. In Commoner, you can go ahead and continue to intimidate with things like Awakening Bellow and so on and so forth to really strip their hand of nearly everything and come in for a really big attack. So, and of course, Battle Worn 1, that's about all most get for brutes in, low level budget play. So that's not bad. Golden Glare. This is another Victor specialization. I think Victor got 3 specializations in this set, and I think Betsy only got 2. So that's kind of crazy. I'm not sure why Victor got the most, but Pretty Boy, he's gonna spend his money wisely, and he's gonna make sure he's got the most. Victor specialization. This one's kind of interesting. Blade Break 2 is at least good. It's better than most of the Guardian helmets outside because most of the time you're playing Helm of the Icen's Peak. But Golden Glare, right? If it defends with 2 or more yellow cards, create a gold token. So when Victor makes gold, he draws a card. So it is important to note that is a thing that could happen. But blocking with 2 or more yellow cards is quite specific. And on top of that, you only get to do it once. And in most cases, it's got to be like a game-changing thing to happen towards the end of the game. But block 2, Blade Break, not terrible. I think its ability is a little super situational because you'd have to block for like 8 almost. You'd be blocking for at least 6 if it's this and then 2 other yellow cards. I don't know what you'd have to block on a regular basis with that to get value. Bet big is Betsy's attack specialization here. Super good for Betsy because, again, you get to attack a hero and wager 3 tokens, a gold, a might, and a vigor token. This is going to turn on a lot of stuff for Betsy. It's going to turn on a lot of those cards that when the might pops, it's going to turn on a light of those cards that care about whether or not they have additional power above their base. It's going to care a lot about the ability to also the fact that this just wagers in and of itself. Betsy can overpower this attack, make it come in for 9 and overpower. That nearly guarantees you the win for this attack. Even if your opponent decides to block it all out, they get to keep a gold token, but the might and vigor tokens are going to go away because they're not going to have enough resources to play their card on their turn, and they're just going to lose out on those tokens. So a gold is a gold, but I think that this is still a super strong card for Betsy, especially in Clash. Raise an Army, we've talked about as the Kasai specialization in our Kasai video. I'm not too sure if the new Kasai cares more about just drawing cards as opposed to making Centauri sellswords. I still think this is a really cool way to play Kasai is through her specialization to make these Centauri sellswords, but I understand that if drawing a gold gets you pitch yellow or blue, destroy a gold, draw a card, you now are pretty much left with the same hand you had originally, but now your weapons cost nothing. Depending on the situation for the gold, I would say it's good. I would say if you really wanted to, running 1 is at least good. If you don't want to run, if you don't want to like specify in that build, because it's a good get out strategy. You know, when you have 4 gold and your opponent is trying their best to take you out and you go, okay, cool, raise an army. Here's 4 Centauri sellswords that you're going to have to either deal with or feel the wrath of in the next turn. It's going to be a lot. But remember that they do count for on-hit things. So ninjas are probably it's probably the worst way to go against ninja. It's definitely more sideboard because ninjas can just keep on hitting those things and they only have 2 health. So ninjas can trigger a whole bunch of different, draw abilities, even based on like the Tiger Mask, several other powerful like on hit abilities for ninjas. So something to look out for, but I think it's still viable enough as a strategy into like Guardians. Would probably be pretty good. Show No Mercy. This is the new Rhinar specialization. This is just Alpha Rampage, but it doesn't get the buff to 9 until the opponent has no cards in hand. So I'd play this. Obviously, it's fine because you intimidate them, but you want to try to nearly quad intimidate somebody. Destroy or pitch a 6, not pitch a 6, discard a 6, have Rhinar intimidate, play another card that allows you to intimidate and attack. They're going to want to block with cards in their hand, and then if you have an agility token, you can then, if you have the resources, attack with Show No Mercy, come in with 9 more with intimidating either their last card in their hand or they'll already have no cards in their hand, and you can come in with this. The other thing is I think this trigger also happens during the defense step. So if your opponent only has 2 cards in hand, you attack with this, you intimidate one of those cards, they block with one of those cards to not take the full damage, the last card in their hand, this will still get the buff. I'm not a judge, but that is how I'd see this. So I imagine it would essentially take a look to see if their opponent has no cards in hand. Then it would go to reaction step and it would see that there's still no cards in hand. There's no cards in hand now, and it would get +3 to the attack. So very powerful, pretty much either forcing blocks or forcing huge damage. Prize Galea. This is the Olympia specialization helmet. It's got temper 2, so already super great for Clash and even cooler for Commoner. But you get to pay 1, destroy it, and then give an attack you control wager a gold token with the defending hero. So you can wager additional stuff with Olympia to get more gold tokens, because every time you win a wager, or the first time an attack wins a wager on Olympia, you get a gold. So this is just a way to generate more of that gold and power it up. It's also got great synergy with his actual like attack reaction specialization, which we'll check out later. So, but temper 2, still super powerful in and of itself. Knucklehead for KO, very interesting card because it's destroy this, roll a 6 or roll a 6 out of die, and then until the end of the turn, your base intellect is the number rolled. You have a 50-50 chance of screwing yourself as per usual with rolling dice in these manner. I mean, if you end your turn, if you have a 6, if you roll a 6 on this and you end your turn, you start your turn with 6 cards. That's value, baby. That's value. So 6 cards in hand, possibly 1 in arsenal. That is very good. But of course, again, this is just like fun, silly, brute nonsense, right? The real thing here, again, is that it's got temper 2, and like a brute with temper 2 in commoner, huge. So I do like it. Moving into an Azalea specialization, actually, this is available in the expansion slot, the Judge, Jury, and Executioner. Very interesting card, comes in for 5, blocks for 3, it is only 1 cost. And if it has an aim counter on it, which you can get with Crow's Nest, the quiver of Azalea, it has when this hits a hero, they discard all but 1 card from their hand. That is pretty awesome. They do get to obviously choose the card they get to keep, some other card that, you know, like a scar for a scar or something. So it's not like a super debilitating thing, but it is kind of like how some would consider a time walk. You know, most of the time it's just your opponent going, okay, I can't really do anything on my turn anymore. I get all my stuff ripped away from my hand. It is what it is, right? So not terrible. I'm curious to see what is going to go on with this. I don't really play Azalea, so I don't have too much knowledge in how great that is. Hood of the Red Sand is for Kasai. This is a new Kasai specialization. As an attack reaction, you can pay 1 and banish a red and a yellow from your grave to destroy this, and then a target sword attack gets when this hits, draw a card. It only does target 1 sword attack, so make sure that it hits, but it allows you to draw a card, so you're going to want to do this on usually your first sword attack. So that way, if it does hit, you get to draw a card, and then your next sword attack will be free. Anything to give your swords go again and additional, ways to discount the cost to attack with them is always super good. And of course, it's got Battle Worn 1, so that's also very good. Reckless Charge is the new KO specialization. I was really curious if he was going to get another specialization outside of this helmet. He did, but it's just kind of okay. This brings scab skins into Clash in a way, but in order for you to really win from this, you have to have more things you want to do. And Brutes got a lot of stuff to give them agility tokens in this set. So I definitely think that, even if you can guarantee 2 things on your turn, like 2 attacks on your turn, whether it be Mandible Claw and something else or, Wild Ride and something else, the odds are normally very, very good. You're probably not going to need that 3rd action point. And more specifically, you only get a big bonus if you roll a 6. If you roll a 6 on the die, you get to draw a card. Now, if KO's specialization or if KO's ability said that they get +1 to die rolls as well, that's a little different, but that does not happen. So it is what it is there. Good Time Chapeau, this is the new Betsy specialization. Also temper 2 in Commoner as well as Clash. So very, very important to point that out there. Guardian now has temper 2 for Betsy. Very powerful headpiece. Very cool to see. Much better than Blade Break. And more specifically, the action that Betsy has here is really, really good. I don't know if you can see it here on the screen, but it says destroy gold you control. Your next attack this turn gets when this attacks a hero. Wager a might and a vigor token with them and then go again. So all you need to do for this is destroy gold, and you get to wager 2 tokens on Betsy, which will then activate the ability for you to turn on Betsy's ability to give it overpower and +1. And all it cost you was a gold. You don't have to destroy this headpiece like all the other ones say you do. Knucklehead says destroy this. Prize Galea says destroy this. You've got Monstrous Veil, which says destroy this, but Betsy's does not. Betsy's does not get destroyed. You just have to destroy a gold token instead of the helmet. And then, of course, Temper 2. Crazy as heck. The Golden Sun, this is Victor's attack specialization, only available in Clash for us, budget players. Specialization super good. It's a yellow, which is very interesting. It allows you to kind of turn on that Victor specialization up here for Golden Glare. But the Golden Sun, additional cost to play this, you can destroy gold. And if you do, it gets +3 in overpower. So 10 overpower. And all you need to do is destroy gold. And then, of course, pay the cost. Very, very important for ending games. But more importantly, when you win a clash revealing this, so when you clash, you show the top card of your deck. And if yours is higher, you win. If you win with this card, you get a gold token, which in turn then lets you draw a card, which would be the Golden Sun. Very powerful. Being able to make gold, draw card, make gold, draw card. That's huge for a hero to be able to do. And I'm very curious to see how well it does into Clash. Coercive Tendency is a new Arachne specialization that just came out. I don't suggest running this in Arachne Solitary Confinement, but regular Arachne that is more contract-based, that's the one you're going to want to kind of do, because you can look at the top 3 cards of the Defending Heroes deck, put them back in any order, and then banish the top one. And if you complete a contract doing this, your assassin attacks get go again this combat chain. So if you're coming in with an attack that says the contract is you have to banish a non-attack action from your opponent. And during the reaction step, or during Arachne, you can look at the top card of their deck, but even still, you're going to want to play this as an attack reaction for 0. It costs 0 to play this, mind you, and it's a blue block 3. Crazy good. You look at the top 3 cards of their deck, you can shuffle them in any order, and then the top card absolutely gets banished. Like, unless your opponent does something that allows them to also mess with their deck before your card happens at an instant speed or something, you're going to be able to get rid of their top card of their deck, no matter what. So you want it to either complete the contract that you're currently using the attack reaction on to kind of get that buff. And that's going to really give you a huge advantage to be able to go wide in Arachne, which is like insane because normally you don't do that. A lot of Arachne's attacks are like 0s for 4 and 0 for, or like 1 for 5s and so on and so forth. So very resource low. But the downside is they don't have a lot of go again. And so if you can find the way to give them go again doing this, very, very useful. Not to mention, of course, you can also choose a card that you don't want them to have. For instance, if they have a crazy good specialization, or maybe there's a D-react on top that you don't want to have in there, you can just choose that to be the target and then banish it. So that way you can just get rid of stuff in their deck. I'd run 2 of these in Arachne all day. Card is good. Card is good in Clash. I don't know how well it is in Classic Constructed, but card is good in Clash. Up the ante, this is Olympia's specialization. You'll see how this works with Prized Gallia here. Essentially, you can pitch X, and it's choose X plus 1. So there's 4 targets here. So if you pitch a blue to it, you're going to get everything in here. If you pitch a yellow, you're only going to get 3, so on and so forth. It allows you to wager 3 different things on an attack. So you can wager an agility, a gold, and a vigor token. But the 4th one there that you can add on is target attack gets plus Y, where Y is the number of wagers that have been done, right? So all 3 of these count as wagers. They don't have to be completed wagers, but how many times you are wagering a token. So you wager 3 here, that's plus 3 to your next attack. And then you also can use this here if you have the resources to have it wager again to give it plus 4 as opposed to plus 3. I think it's very expensive for a total of like plus 3 value. Obviously, you have to make sure this hits. If you don't, then your opponent gets all this stuff and then it's just like whatever. But luckily, it's an attack reaction thing, so your opponent might not have as much opportunity to block unless they have defense reactions. So that is what that is. We are 42 minutes into the video so far from what my recording says. So we're going to kind of breeze through the commons now. So commoner fans, this is where you're going to want to be. We're going to talk a little bit about these. A lot of these are reprints, so I don't really want to go over a ton of them, but I'll get over them as quickly as possible. We have temper equipment still being introduced into commoner. Super huge. That cares more so that you have these tokens, though. So there's a cycle of these. There's a chest piece for brute. There's arms for warrior, and there's feet for guardian. And they all care about whether or not you have 2 of their respective tokens. This is very good for limited. I don't know how much play it's going to see in commoner, in constructed. If you can guarantee that you have these tokens often enough, even if you're able to just do it on a turn where you can play one of those drinks and get that additional stuff on there, it's going to be really, really worth it. That's not bad there. Assault and Battery. This is a new card here. You pay 3 for 7. You can beat chest, and then you'll get an agility token if you beat chest. This is very good for setting up for your next turn because brutes are going to want to have an agility token so they can go a little wider with their really tall attacks. Very important to their playstyle. Bare Fangs, again, is going to benefit a lot from those agility tokens, being able to give it go again, and you get the draw discard. Very good, especially in KO. Pack Hunt, same deal when it attacks, Intimidate. Very basic in its nature. If it's not being played now, it probably is going to be played later. Pound Town, very interesting naming. Got a little thing for this. I love the naming conventions of a lot of these cards. 3 for 7, beat chest. When it attacks, if you beat chest, create a might token. So Pound Town is exactly like Assault and Battery. It's just for might tokens instead. Again, great choices for KO because a 5 can be a 6. I don't know. They care more about agility tokens than might tokens, so Assault and Battery has a little bit more of a priority than that. Wild Ride, we already know. It's, discard a 6. If you discarded a random 6, it gets go again. You can also cheat this by having agility tokens, but you're going to want that draw discard ability, so I think most people will probably have no problem guaranteeing that happens. Then we move on to Bonebreaker Bellow. This is a card that we'd seen previously way back. Beat chest +5. If they don't beat chest, it's just +3. So it's a great way to guarantee that trigger on your discard. It allows Rhinar to Intimidate because you get to choose the 6. It's not random. So this unfortunately doesn't work well with Beaten Trackers. Beaten Trackers cares if you randomly discarded a 6, you can destroy it. The same with Reincarnate for Clash. In the beat chest scenario, you choose a card with 6 or more to discard. It is not randomly chosen for you, and because of that, if any of your cards say, if a card is destroyed at random, do the thing, beat chest won't work with that. So even for instance here with Wild Ride, when this attacks, draw a card, then discard a random card. If a card with 6 or more power is discarded this way, this gets go again. This would need to discard a card at random in order for its ability to happen. This, you just need to discard a 6. Same concept there. Smashback Alehorn, this is the drink for brutes. Lets you make both of your tokens here. I'm not sure how much play it's going to see in Constructed, but for limited, it's probably not terrible because it'll allow you to turn on those cards like Raw Meat. You can begin or end your turn with it, and then have the tokens to guarantee that you're going to be able to block 2 on your turn. Stand Ground, this is the legs for Guardian, same concept with the tokens there. But now we move into something that's really insane for Commoner. I think this is kind of crazy. Command Respect is thump, but destroy their arsenal. Very powerful. 3 for 6, huge damage there, and it blocks for 3. Again, with Guardian, you're going to find ways to give it Dominate, or you're going to give it Overpower, or something of the sort, and then you can just throw it in there for an insane amount of damage, guaranteeing to destroy an arsenal almost all the time. Concuss, also super good. Again, Thump, I keep explaining Thump, but for those of you who don't know what Thump is, it's essentially when Thump has greater power than its base, it gets Dominate, and when this hits, destroy your opponent discards a card. Concuss is kind of like that. Again, it's got base pump here. It's just missing the Dominate, but you can give it Overpower if you're able to put a wager onto it using the wager mechanics that you'll see in Guardian here in a bit. So Concuss is pretty good. Thunk is another one. It's very interesting. This is obviously specifically for clashes, but when you win a clash revealing this, you create a might token. So if your whole deck is based around clash mechanic, this is a great one to have because it's an 8. You're usually winning at that point. Heck, you can even run the 7. You're probably going to do pretty well. You get to get a might token out of it, which will help pump your next attack. Wallop makes you a vigor token, which is very good. So that's, I'd say, almost better. I think it's almost better to play Wallop. The only difference here is that Thunk has +1 to its power, whereas Wallop is a 7. A little bit of a difference in value, but playing red Wallop and yellow Thunk could be beneficial for you. Big Bop, this is just like the card we're going to see down here, Bigger Than Big, except this cares about vigor tokens, whereas Bigger Than Big cares about might tokens. And start of your turn, destroy this, get next Guardian attack against +5, and when it attacks a hero, you may wager a vigor token with them. Very powerful in Betsy because it makes it so your Guardian attack has a wager mechanic, so you can give it Overpower. If it's already getting +5 to its attack, and then you're going to give it Overpower, your opponent better hope they're playing block cards, or they have an insane amount of defense reactions or a fridge ready, because Crush the Weak comes in for that amount, or if you're playing Bravo in Clash and you're playing a freaking not Spinal Crush, Crippling Crush, I mean, get out of here with that. Like that is really, 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 really powerful to get all that kind of damage off of there. So again, something to look towards. I would run at least the red, and I would at least run the red, because you don't want too many things that block for 2, but the payoff for +5 is pretty good. And then this is the Guardian Drink, Might and Vigor token, so great way to start off your turn. Beck and Applause is the Warrior Token Temper equipment, so very nice there. Agile Engagement, again, most of the stuff you're going to see with Warrior, it's going to care whether or not your opponent defended with an attack action card. So unless you expect your opponent to be running a lot of attack actions, maybe like ninjas are great to play these cards into. I mean, really, it's mainly just like ninjas are super huge into it, because Dromai, for instance, all of her dragons block for 3 and they're not attack actions. So that's important to think about. But Agile Engagement, you get to +3 to your attack if it's defended by attack action card to create an agility token. It is very powerful in situational things, but if it's going to be something that's going to pump and make a token, you want to make sure it hits, and you want to make sure that you're going to, meet that clause. So could be very good for limited. I'm not sure about everything else. Vigorous Engagement is also just like Agile Engagement, just makes a Vigor token. Draw Swords. This card is insane, for the record, guys. Insane. The reds, the blues, I mean, heck, the yellows even, if you're going to play like Kasai, it's just good, right? It pumps your next warrior attack, which includes your swords, and you get to draw a card, and you get go again. So it's a 1-for-1 in pitching a blue and drawing. So it's a 1-for-1 there. In Kasai, you get to draw a card, which means that your swords cost less. In Bolton, it's a pump to have his next attack be able to get that go again with his soul, and he gets to draw another card. I mean, you're really doing a nice setup here for these, and I think Kasai specifically is going to love them, but I think every hero is going to love them. I mean, being able to filter your hand, draw a card, be able to play the things you want, it's a really, really good card, and it's kind of insane. It's a common. Edge Ahead is going to just be like Hold'em down here, except Edge Ahead is going to care about agility tokens. Hold'em is going to care about Vigor tokens. I would say Edge Ahead is going to be really, really nice, because again, you want to win those agility tokens there, so you can pump your next attack. When this attacks a hero, you may wager an agility token with them. So you attack with your sword for 5, and then you have your opponent block, and then you go ahead and you make it go over with any other attack reactions you have in your hand, and then you get the agility token, which will be great for your next turn. Engaged Swiftblade is pretty good. Again, this is another like defend by attack action card. This gets go again. This is a little bit more telegraphed, which is why I don't think it's the best, because it quite literally says, okay, now I know I'm going to give this go again. Whereas with Agile Engagement, it's an attack reaction, and it doesn't give the weapon go again, but it does give an agility token, so you can do that on the next turn. Engaged Swiftblade, more situational. Again, it's not a guaranteed go again, but at least you're not, and it has to still be an attack action. So it's still a little rough. I'd still rather play something like Hit and Run, which guarantees that I get go again. And then the drink down here, Goblet of Blood Run Wine, you get an agility and a vigor token. Very good for warrior again. So like this might be something you might want to play, because costs 1 less and you get an agility token. So this is a great setup for the next turn if you're trying to do that. Now we're going to move on to the Brute Guardian stuff. Brute Guardian has a fist or an arms equipment. Destroy this, create a might token, go again. So if you need might tokens, that's very nice for those specific situations. Mighty Windup allows for you to discard this at instant speed to create a might token, but you can also attack with it. It's also a 7, so it's going to win a lot of clashes. It's going to come in for a lot of damage if you don't need the might token. Rising Power is part of this like rising set, essentially, where there's several cards, 3 cards in the set that have rising in their name, and they care about whether or not you drew a card, which is very, very powerful, I personally think, because all of these heroes can draw cards with gold. So there is that available. So Rising Power, if you draw a card this turn, it gets +1, and then you pay 2 come and attack for 7. I don't think it's the best one out of all of them, personally, because I think the warrior ones are better. Wage Might, very specific. Again, it's an attack action, so guardians and brutes are probably going to really like this, but I don't think every guardian and brute's going to like it because it's a might token. I think they'd rather do an agility one, but I don't think guardians have access to the agility ones. These lead with cycles as well are also very good. They allow your next brute or guardian attack to get +3, and then you guarantee to create that token. You'll see that in the next little bit of stuff that we see here. You'll see a better version of that. Flat Trackers is also it's a brute warrior equipment. You guarantee to create an agility token. This is like delayed refraction bolters, essentially. It does blade break 1, so whereas refraction bolters does block for 1 for battle worn. So it might be something that you might look to get, especially if you're in brute. But I don't think it's going to be better if you're in Guardian. I feel like Refraction Bolters is still kind of the play. Unless you're trying to do like big attack warrior, then that's something else. Agile Windup, this also could be something if you want to just like, you get this in your hand, you can play, you can play the blue, and then just at any point, you can just discard the blue if you don't want to block for it, or like you didn't block for it, or you didn't pitch for it, or something else, and you don't want to put it in your arsenal, you can discard it. Get the agility token, which is going to be very powerful for brutes more specifically, because like you play this in KO, because that is a 6 technically in KO's deck. And then you can discard it for a agility token, so the next turn you can come in with a really powerful attack. Rising Speed, super good if you're trying to build some kind of attack action warrior in this case, specifically because warrior had that card Draw Swords, which allows you to just draw a card. Of course, any hero that also cares about gold or will ever make gold really likes this, because you can just pitch to a gold, draw that card, and then something like this in Brute or Warrior, if you drew a card this turn, this gets Go Again. So it's a 2 for 5 Go Again. And then mixed up with the next card we'll show off in the Rising set is Rising Energy down here. I'll actually show that off real quick. This is a Guardian Warrior. If you drew a card this turn, this costs 1 resource less to play. If you combo in on a warrior and you're, Draw Swords, Rising Speed for 8, Go Again, into 6, Go Again, or not into 6. And then if you have a way to give that Go Again, you can do that too, and so on and so forth. Very, very cool stuff. I don't know. I like the combo a lot. I might try running it. Wage Agility is just like Wage Might. Again, agility seems to be a little bit more special in Brute. And you're probably not going to be playing this in Warrior. So, because it costs 3 and it's an attack that doesn't have Go Again. So, I think it's more so a Brute card, but it is what it is. This you should be playing in Warrior, which is Lead with Speed. Your next Brute or Warrior attack this turn gets +3. Create an agility token. It's good in Brute and or Warrior, because you guarantee the pump. And then you also guarantee that you get an agility token for your next turn. So, if you're going to play any of them, you can just play the reds. Super powerful, though. Onto the Guardian Warrior, we do have Vigor Girth. This is the kind of card to play if you're going to guarantee yourself a Vigor token. But again, it's just Blade Break 1. If you're trying to get extra resources, this is delayed Blossom of Spring. I don't really like it. I'd rather play Blossom of Spring, to be honest. Rising Energy, we took a look at. Again, this is a really, really awesome card. There are other things that you can do to draw cards in Commoner as well. Guardians have special things to draw cards as well. It is very, very important to check that out and see what kind of things you can do with Rising Energy. I like the Rising cards a lot. Vigorous Windup, this might be played in Clash Guardian, but of course it's a Vigor token, which is just delayed resources. So you guarantee the token and you'll win clashes in most cases, but you could also attack with it if you wanted to attack. And then Wage Vigor is the same deal. Again, more so for Guardians than Warriors, unless you're trying to do a Go Tall Warrior, which I haven't seen yet, but I think that would be pretty cool to see in like Bolton or maybe even in Olympia, because Olympia cares about wagering. So I'd see these being able to be used in Olympia, but I don't know so much about Kasai. Kasai seems to want to attack with her weapons more than attack actions, so don't think it'll be the case. And then Lead with Heart. This is the same deal as Lead with Speed and Lead with Power, except you get a Vigor token instead. So again, gets you a great amount of resources. You can run 2 lead with hearts and 2 lead with speeds in your warrior deck and still be able to guarantee the buff as well as the token. Both help, right? A vigor token will still help no matter what in warrior. Guardian, it will help a lot too because most of your attacks cost a lot, so having that vigor token will be worth it. Moving into the generics here, we're almost towards the end. Thank you guys so much. Seriously, if you've made it through this whole thing so far, please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I've been talking a lot and I'm very, very exhausted, but thank you guys seriously for checking this out, and I hope that it will bring a lot of information to you. Let's take a look at Glory Seeker. This is another way to just destroy a card, or to destroy this, draw a card, pitch 3 to draw a card. I feel like it's pretty expensive, but it does guarantee card draw. It doesn't block for anything though. I wish it at least had like battle. Well, to be fair, it probably wouldn't be a common if it had Battle Worn 1 and then pay 3, destroy this, draw a card. This is another way to guarantee. Kasai does really, really well to guarantee that card draw. It's a generic, so you can use this in any of those heroes. You can use it in Guardian. You can use it in Brute or any of them. Any hero you think of in Commoner, you can use this for. This will also help in like Kano matches if you're doing that too. But I think Ragamuffin's Hat's still the better choice. Sheltered Cove. This is just pay 3, defend, pay 3, prevent 2. Again, it's kind of the out in limited for overpower. But if you need more defensive strategy, it does pay 3, block 2, which is good if your hero does not have the ability to, if your class does not have the ability to do that. These adversity set here, very interesting, but they are very situational. Again, this is more so for limited, but can only defend if the attack's controller has drawn a card this turn. And then this one is the destroyed a vigor, destroyed a might, or destroyed an agility. So your opponent has to have destroyed any of those or have drawn a card at some point during their turn in order for you to block with them. Very much so for limited, but they do block for a lot, so that is nice. Headliner stuff, all of this is very obviously for UPF more specifically. So when you're drafting UPF, these are the ones you're going to want because they can Blade Break 3, which is huge. But Bloodied Oval does actually put a Guardian, or not a Guardian, it puts a shield into everybody's hands. Anybody who can hold an offhand and a one-handed weapon can run Bloodied Oval. So now everybody has access to at least one Blade Break shield. And it's also going to be very powerful for anybody who's going into the UPF draft stuff too. So obviously draft equipment, but it could see play in the actual constructed formats of Commoner and Clash as well. Adrenaline Rush is a reprint. Pretty much cares if you have less life than your opposing hero. It'll come in for 7. 2 for 7 is pretty good, but it only blocks for 2, so be careful with that. Performance bonus guarantees you get a gold if this hits. So if you can find a way to get this to hit, super good, especially since if it was played from the arsenal, it gets go again. So you can attack with this from the arsenal, give it go again, threaten a longer chain, because obviously on hits are scary and people are going to want to block that, especially at 3. In most cases, you might want to run the yellow instead because it feels bad over blocking something like this. And then also more importantly, if you're playing Denji, I think this comes in for they can't block this. It's also very good. Rally the rear guard, more defensive strategies. You discard a card. This gets +3. This is great for if you're playing Brute in limited because it allows you to discard a card. It's not like the Spice, I don't think. Again, it's more so for Rhinar in limited because you can discard a card, or you actually can't intimidate on your opponent's turn. Just kidding. There's only the legendary that can do that. It's just a way to get additional defense. So fatigue strategy. Trade-in's pretty good for Kasai. Again, I think this is mainly for limited play, but it might see play in actual Kasai if they try to do a attack action route, because you can, if you play it from Arsenal, it gets go again, and then whenever there's this attacks, you may discard a card, and then if you do draw a card, that's super good for any of those rising strategies, the rising speed or rising energy, and so on and so forth. It's also super good for Brutes, but I don't think we've seen it played in any Brutes now. But it is good if you're, KO is also very good with this because you can attack with it and you'll pitch or you'll discard a 6, draw a card, you'll get a might token, and then you'll activate any of your other, if you discarded a 6, do X things turn. Of course, lunging press we already talked about in the previous one. It's technically a rare in a previous set, so it's in both of these somehow. Money Where Your Mouth is those same buffs that you saw for vigor, agility, and might, but just for gold. And it's generic, so anybody can use it. This is a great pump for if your hero cares about gold, or if you've just been looking for a card to pump your attacks with. This is a generic action. It can be played alongside something like Viscerai. You can play Money Where Your Mouth Is, and then play a non-attack action, and then play an attack. And it'll get +3, plus whatever, and then come in Shrill with Skull form. So it might see play there. I'm not too sure. I'm just talking out my butt. And I think it has play. It's definitely very good for limited. Starting Stake is great if your hero cares about gold. This is a card you might want to run. If you control no gold tokens, you create a gold token. So it's great for Kasai if you're looking to build up that gold status. It's great for Victor if you're trying to win clashes. It's great for anybody who cares about drawing a card. And then Test of Strength. It's a generic block, so anybody can run this, and it's just block 4, right? It's another block 4. So if you're running into like a big Guardian high damage deck and you can never block correctly, essentially, Test of Strength is a great way to do that. Of course, the winner of that clash gets a gold token, so you don't exactly get the best value if you lose the clash, but it does block for 4. It's really good into Guardians, or like playing Guardians and fatigue stuff. So you're just in a win-win situation at that point. That's Test of Strength. So that is pretty much everything actually for this. It's over an hour, this video. Hopefully I get it to at least under an hour. But if you guys enjoyed the video, I wanted to go ahead and make this really a well explained thought process of the cards as I see them, and how I'd best utilize the cards, which ones I'm happy about, which ones I'm not so happy about. I haven't done a whole lot of testing in regards to these cards because obviously nothing is out yet, and I want to be able to test them at locals and test them during our Clash League if need be, which also, mind you, if you have not signed up for our Clash League, you can go to the description down below and you can go join the Discord. There is a Clash League that is happening on February 12th, 2024, and we're doing it for 9 weeks. So if you want to sign up, if you can't sign up before the 12th, try signing up sometime, a few weeks into the 12th. Just let us know that you want to sign up for it, and then get your games in, play around a little bit. We can do some testing for Clash. Commoner fans, right? Obviously, this is all, I know Smithel's got some good stuff going for you guys over on the Flesh and Common Blood Discord. So you guys can always go ahead and check that out too for the Commoner League too. But let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think about the budget cards in here? Are there favorite cards of yours that you'd like to instantly put into your deck? I feel like a lot of these warrior attack reactions and these pump cards and everything are going to be almost instant includes. Brutes are almost definitely going to be playing as many agility cards as they possibly can in their deck, and just kind of like running around rampant, being able to come out with several large attacks. And who knows? That very well could be enough to shake up the meta, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what is in store for everything. If Icelander is still going to run rampant in Commoner and Clash. If Ice is enough to take care of all this, then I'm not entirely sure. What's it all for? Maybe in Clash we'll have to make some choices in regards to that, but we'll take it on the chin and we'll just see whether or not it's something that we need to address. But for right now, I'm very excited to play this in Limited. I'm very excited to play this in my Commoner and my Clash decks, and I'm excited to see the continual growth of Flesh and Blood in the casual formats. And I'm happy that all of you here watching this video also want that for yourself. So thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate your support. If you want to make that number go up for me, that'd be perfect. We're looking to hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So quite a long time to hit that number, but if we hit it faster, that's perfect. I want to do some kind of giveaway when we hit 2K. So make sure to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this kind of content. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it as well. And I will see all of your shining faces in the next video. Nerd out.